Can't forget my cat. Everyone's here for the cat cam. We're getting into a TvT first as we go through the RSL replays. This is going to be kind of a hybrid, cast and analysis. So we'll take some time if there's something really interesting to look at. Maybe bring out the epic pen. Be all fancy with my drawings. But all right, we got ourselves bottom left, Cure, top left, Byun. This is the group stage. I'm obviously not going to go through literally every single replay. But replays that have players that are attending EWC, definitely. And then players, matches that have players matching up against each other, like in the same group or in the same play-in bracket, then absolutely want to cast those. And then maybe one or two of people that we don't see too often, because I know Scarlet played in this one, and I know a lot of people would be interested in seeing, how she's been playing and whatnot, because she rarely makes an appearance nowadays. She plays in qualifiers, doesn't make it very far. But anyway, TvT. TvT, fortunately, has not changed very much. My confidence in this matchup, as far as knowing what's going on, is through the roof. And we actually have a 2-rack versus 2-rack situation. Both in base, both not feeling the need to scout, because they're both doing something that would usually protect them against anything that would be cheese. So if Byun was proxying his 2-racks, he might have one moment where, no, I don't even think, if he was proxying his 2-racks, he'd still be arriving later than Cure's Reapers, but with the same build. Or almost same build, I should say. I was gonna say, maybe the first Reaper could pop out soon, depending on, how much you cut to get the first barracks, but the point stands. High ground, defender's advantage, your own double racks Reaper. There's no reason to scout. There's nothing your opponent can really do that would kill you. But what your opponent can do is do the same thing, just about, and then it comes down to good old-fashioned micro, which could either just bounce off of each other, no problem. Everyone's cool, man, everyone's cool. Or someone could win in spectacular fashion. Byun actually charging ahead, taking a very aggressive stance right there. Seemed to get the benefit initially. It looks like Cure is a little scared of that first Reaper shot going to him. Plus, it went to Cure anyway. What I was saying, plus his Reaper is arriving faster. So he also wanted to give it a chance to help out. But he won the Reaper war regardless. Now Byun just losing that first Reaper, his 2-racks is now done. That's really it to it. He can't be aggressive with it. Obviously, still having the defenses set up and Cure barely getting out of there is good. That's better than the alternative of losing your first and only Reaper. But yeah, we got to move on here, especially for Byun's sake. Cure is probably not too eager to really overinvest into the Reapers anyway, even though he will always have one more if they both do the exact same thing. That's still... Again, defender's advantage, high ground. Although Byun is really aggressive with his Reapers. That is a scary thing to do. Does successfully delay the command center. I want to say about 4 seconds. He was just about to 400 minerals when Byun's Reapers came in, and this is now a disaster. Well, to be honest, kind of feel like Byun deserved that. Byun either thought that Cure was like, oh, I won the 2-racks. I'm not really going to have a lot of Reapers anymore. It's cool, man. Or he thought that the Reapers would be aggressive, in which case playing that way with the Reapers anyway is just a real... he just loses here. That's so many Reapers. The Cyclone is going to get beat by that many Reapers, honestly. Yeah, it's actually... yeah, GG's. I actually don't understand why Byun did his attack, though. So he clearly loses the war. Loses the battle. But I don't think he really has to lose the war as of yet. He gets a faster command center. I'm not exactly sure why. Because he delayed his... Oh, because he didn't go for a Hellion. Oh, there you go, obviously. Yes, he didn't go for a Hellion, so he's also missing, an extra layer of defense. Faster than the Cyclone, anyway. And he plays so aggressively with his Reapers. That is such a dangerous thing to do, because say that the Reapers of Cure maybe did go across the map. That's still no gusta for Byun, in my opinion. Either the Hellion is on the way for Cure, which is very possible, or a Cyclone would eventually pop out. And who would deal more damage? 2 to 3 Reapers or 5 Reapers in a base trade? I wish I could explain Byun's thought process, other than just he thought he'd be able to slip in and slip out in time, but really, really, really risky play that I don't think was strictly necessary either. Because defensively, I think he does play fine. Maybe he has to give up his command center, not like give it up entirely, but maybe he has to have it stall out, knowing that 5 Reapers are on the field. Let me think. Maybe. So if he had 3 Reapers, he would have had 4. He would have 4. Yeah, if he had kept every Reaper at home, he would have 4 Reapers. And then I think that would have at least bought time for the Cyclone to pop out. And then Cyclone plus 4 Reapers. The only question then I would suspect is that if the command center has to be canceled or not. Because I don't think they'd charge up to the main too courageously. I don't know. That's interesting. Had to ask Byun why he did that. I've never had a cat use something that was intended for the cat so often. You know, sometimes they'll use... I mean, I guess they use their cat towers, actually, pretty reliably. But other beds? Never. But he, yeah, almost every cat wanted that bed, actually. Apollo wanted to get in it. Wicket tried it out. And then it just became Dimitri's. So, anyway. No 2 racks opener this time for either player. I am going to guess that Byun figured he had to roll the dice to play out that game. That he was ultimately very afraid of the 5 going on 7 Reaper Hellion push. And even with his own defender's advantage, it would have been too tricky. And like, I could definitely see that. And I could definitely say that he has played far more 2 racks versus 2 racks games than I have. Now, it's not incredibly common, nor do I think it's like incredibly common as far as 2 racks versus 2 racks in bases heading towards each other. I don't think it's that common as well to have you lose the Reaper battle and then lose more Reapers. You know what I mean? Like the first Reaper dying and the person goes, okay, that was it. All right, well, cool. You know, and then they defend. They don't do what Byun does. But Byun is definitely going to have the most experience in that field as a not just aggressive, micro-oriented Terran in general, but he actually really does the 2 racks, I would say, quite frequently in this matchup, because it leads into a 2-on-1, which he also likes to play around with a decent amount, especially against some of the more defensive Terrans, which you would still label Cure as. In the great scheme of things, you know, we had our little trifecta of Terrans beating each other. You know, there was Byun, Cure, Maru, and then at one point there was TY. And then I was just like down to those 3. And then Gumiho's in there as like a wild card just to like come in and take out Maru every now and again. But anyway, but as far as the styles go, you know, Maru's the best at defending, Cure's very good at defending, and then Byun, so much more of the aggressor. 2 racks openers, proxy racks openers, 2-1-1s, and of course the 8 racks, which probably in this game, considering it's not going to end super soon, most likely. We might just get one of those 8 racks versus 3 starport builds. Although I feel like lately 8 racks has actually been more popular for every Terran to choose. So I'm not exactly, I don't want to say that with confidence. I don't feel like I've seen enough TvT say that confidently, but it does feel like it's becoming more common. Anyway, we did have a 1 racks expand for Byun, whereas Cure went for the safer factory expand. It also could give him a little more aggression, but with 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions, that is a decent amount of aggression possibility. It doesn't really do very much when the bunkers are the natural and the high ground is presumably held by, you know, X amount of units, let's say. So even the Reaper throwing a grenade as these Reapers try and climb up, you know, is still good enough, because then the Hellions can't really help out. 3rd Reaper is here, though, and I think we should have an attempt to go into the main. Cyclone is about 5 seconds away from actually finishing. These 3 Reapers do find the SCV line completely open. That's already 2 SCVs killed. There's a 3rd one. Cyclone will get a lock on, and the Reaper of Byun did go down, but still helps trade out 2 Reapers. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's exactly what Cure was looking for, you know, to actually make up for the factory expand. Another reason why I feel like the factory expand really has become so popular, I would say it is the majority of TvTs, although not to the extent like Blink is the majority of openers in PvT, like not that much, but I still think it maybe is like 50% of the openers, if like the other 50% is a mix of the 1 racks expand and a possible 2 racks and all that good stuff. But that aside, because you do usually find the damage to equalize the SCV count, and then you get a little bit of that confidence boost from being the one in control of the map. But at the end of the day, even if they don't find 3 SCVs, I feel like there's so much more that can happen in the mid game. That's obviously a little more important. And for Byun's sake, even though he gets his SCV count almost leveled up, and that isn't almost, it's about 1.5, 1 SCV difference, he is able to just focus entirely on his build. You know, there's not really anything he has to be focusing elsewhere on, so there's no mistakes happening. Third CC does go down on location for Cure, though, and this goes back to having that factor expand generally, finding the damage necessary, plus having the map control. Like this, it's still a bit brazen to do this, I would say, because there could technically be a medevac coming out with 2 Cyclones ready to just pop that. But that is less likely than a Tech Lab and a Raven on the way for the, you know, defensive player thus far. And so that's really not going to be able to, at the very least, kill Command Center. I might stall it out if the auto turret came around, but not much more. So this is something that Byun might be aware of. But it really does suck, you know. The fact that he doesn't get his own 3rd command center on location is going to be making up for the 2 SCV difference, I believe. But then maybe even a little more. And Kira is going to be pretty happy with the state of game number 2 after already winning game 1. You know, pretty easy peasy. Double engineering bay on the way for Byun as Kira gets his barracks up. We do have Byun already a little ahead on the production department. And he is going to be a decent amount ahead on the engineering bays. Like, that's where his benefit is going to go. But 3 Ravens already completed for Cure. 2 tanks to 1. Moving across the map, knowing that there's nothing really heading his way. He's got a little bit of a scout up to the top side with a Howling, and then the rest of the scout goes down to these units. So Byun is going to be contained, at least for a little bit. And that's going to increase Cure's 3rd CC, following up, catching up to the SCV count. Scan comes down, sees that it is Bio, sees that Vikings have popped out as well, and that's a pretty good indicator they're going to attack you. If they're bothering to keep that reactor on and actually build Vikings and not use it for other things, like a barracks and then into medevacs, they're going to go for a little bit of a contain. 3 Ravens is absolutely no joke, but Byun does have a problem. He doesn't have stim. Or, wait, no, I said that wrong. Kira has a problem. He doesn't have stim. Byun might be a little contained in this choke, and there's only 2 Ravens to 3, but they are going to come in at pretty much the exact right angle. Interference Baycheck plus auto turrets do come down. All the Ravens of Kira getting blasted, and this is going to be a win for Byun. Yeah, for sure. The tanks are coming out unlocked, but they only get 1 shot each, and that's not going to be good enough. Vikings landing a little too late, and Byun is just going to have to accept that, and I think he'd be happy to accept that. 3 tanks still alive on medevac. I mean, the Marines all died, basically, but that is A-okay. That is what he's already producing off of 2 reactors. So this is something that he is going to be able to rebuild, and then they're both matching each other's energy on the starport in the factory. So Cure wanted that contain to do a little bit more. You know, either last a little bit longer or maybe trade out the tanks at the very least. And if he traded out the tanks, this is probably fair game. Cure now has to defend a 3rd CC, which has given him that slight SCD lead. But now he is behind in the army supply, or he's behind in positioning is actually his main problem at this point. And he still does not have combat shields, whereas, of course, Byun, faster on the stim, faster on the combat shields. Kira has to be very careful with how he approaches this. Medevac goes into the main base. Interesting combination of units, but just enough, because Kira doesn't have a lot to deal with. He doesn't have a lot of units, and they're also poorly upgraded again without combat shields, so mano a mano, they're just going to be straight up worse. I mean, this is going to be a good enough tactic. The 3rd CC having been lifted and sent away has already been worth the counterattack, and then 8 SCVs dying in the main base as well. Kira's going to send the command center on over to the right side, but you might not get a lot of time to mine from it. His Marines are getting slaughtered. The Liberator only gets 1 shot by the looks of things, and the tanks cannot deal even the minimum number of Marines coming through. 2nd Liberator is going to find some success, and this 1 tank was just barely saved. I mean, in the main base, we still, again, have 2 Marines. That's it, 2 Marines. But still, nothing to defend against that. 4 SCVs going down, 5, 6, 7 plus. Cure also not building SCVs to replace those, as his macro is actually just straight up slipping. That is currently the problem. And Byun is getting farther and farther ahead, obviously landing his 3rd CC, grabbing his 4th command center as well. Double drops going to the main base. There are some Marines. But again, no combat shields, so they're still good enough to take out the unloading units, and maybe even a little bit more. That medevac, yeah, will go down. That held the tank. Kier barely hanging in here, and it is barely. He lost 17 SCVs and then wasn't replacing them for probably a good minute right there. And I checked his minerals. He was banking about 200, so it wasn't that. I mean, if he was intending to not produce SCVs, he still wasn't using all of his production facilities. Possibly because, right, he doesn't have reactors. He didn't have gas to build the medevacs. Like that, I think that probably was intentional in a way that you survive the current attack, but it just kind of ended up not working the way you would want because you didn't have the production to actually use all your bank. As little as it was. But at that moment, really hurting Kier, obviously for a lot of reasons, but then he maybe could have been at 60 SCVs if he'd been replacing them the entire time. And he's still, instead he's down 20. But even if he was okay on the SCVs, let's say, he still would be so far behind in a lot of departments. He's still so far behind in 221. That fourth base, I mean, maybe he could get it canceled and lifted. This game's not entirely over yet, but it is up to Byun to make the blunder. Byun seems pretty well set up. He's got 5 racks with reactors, double factory now finished. Again, those 2-2 upgrades are going to kick in, and he's got, well, actually a good number of Marines, equal number of Marines for Kier. Wow. Good decision. Command center goes down in the blink of an eye. The Marines pulled back a little too far. The tank number wasn't high enough. Byun might have gotten up to 2 factories much faster than Kier did, but his actual tank count was still reeling from the counter actually being destroyed. Kier takes advantage of it, and that 4th CC being sniped really gives Kier a lot of confidence bringing this game back, but the upgrades are still a big issue. Equal army supply, almost equal number of Marines, but 2-2 versus 1-1. That is going to be huge. And Kier's tank count, it's okay. I think it would cover the upgrade difference if it was perfect. Byun is clearly on the ropes a little bit, struggling to defend, knowing that he's got a bit of a problem, but knowing also that he has those 2-2 upgrades, he certainly will be able to stand his ground here. Should he see a tank a little alone, or the Marines a little far away? I mean, there's not much that his Marines will actually do before Byun's Marines come and punishes. Viking popped out, going to kill the Liberator. Medevac's going to the main base. Byun saw it, responds with his own triple Medevac. I think what happened there is that Kier thought the Vikings would go track this, and so he sent his Liberator back in, but that did not work, and now his Medevacs are dying as well. One goes down, second one barely not. But Kier still does not have a 4th command center. And he still doesn't have his extra 2 reactors. No second factory. Not quite on 2-2 either, although making sure to afford that +3 attack. Byun really on point, by the way, on these upgrades. Something that sometimes he has a problem with. Getting their armor as well, but now he's on point. So he's going to keep maybe a 20-second lead in the upgrades. If Kier can even afford +3 armor. I don't even think he can. Interesting decision going on right now for Kier as he tries to hold the middle of the map, not let Byun get too far ahead. But Byun has got a second attack up his sleeve here. He's actually going to push to the middle to a certain degree, but double Medevac's going to the main base. That's a big problem. But the interesting decision was actually to lift off the tech lab. I mean, it makes sense. You don't need the tech lab anymore for your barracks. It's just not something I think you see a lot of people bother to do unless they were really counting their pennies. Unfortunately, Kira's going to be even more broke as the SCVs in the main base are going to go down. Maybe even the engineering base, which would put him so far behind those 3-3 upgrades. At least they get refunded, I suppose. But that's all I can say about that. That's still a huge loss. Byun can still win with a 3-3 timing if he doesn't somehow win before then. And Kier, only just now grabbing at 4th command center, is finishing up, but 2 Medevacs threaten that as well. Byun is also only on 3 CC. I mean, he actually never replaced the 4th command center. Yes, he did. He did, finally going into the main base, but has yet to actually shift it on over. Kier, the upgrades are such a big problem, though. Kier is hanging in there, gets one of the Medevacs, gets the other one very, very low. Byun long-distance mining. If Kier sends his own Medevac out, that could be a very good opportunity for him. He's managed to finally get his 5 barracks with reactors. He's actually capable of producing more than his opponent. And then the 2 factories as well is very important. He might have also, I think 2 factories as the game goes on for TvT is just necessary. Of course it is. But it also is, like, if Byun is usually like Byun, right? He's playing like Byun. Then he will almost always go for base trades given the opportunity. I mean, not necessarily forcing it because, that's how he is. But if he's ever on the ropes, he is the one Terran you can depend on to go for a base trade. And having double factories pumping out tanks can help. And we even have a tank just waiting in the main base, knowing that something's going to be headed his way. Kira goes for an orbital at his 4th base, but more importantly, he is unsieged in the middle of the map, loses 3 tanks right off the bat. And again, fortunately, has the 2 factory production, but yeah, his 4th orbital is actually very vulnerable. His 3rd base also vulnerable. Kira knows that something is heading up to the top side. He goes and defends that pretty nicely. But on the bottom right, he has to respond quickly. 3-3 is done for Byun. And Byun just took out yet another tank. Kira still on 6, though. If they're perfectly positioned, then that will do the trick. It is difficult to have them constantly in perfect position, though. Byun did not send his full army out to that right side. He only sent a couple of Marines. He has the rest of his army actually kind of balling up to the left side. He's actually left so many tanks defensively. I mean, his tank count has really grown. 12 tanks are available, and they are all making sure to defend these bases. Actually, kind of it's the way this game is played out to have Kira in the more desperate position and the more often Marine-based position. As you can see, having trouble to even afford that 2nd tank. But it is kind of funny seeing Byun, you know, he doesn't go for the chaotic game that maybe he could have gone for, trying to force a base trade. No, he actually says, like, I'm going to settle things down. I'm going to play it safe and play it wise. Just a couple of drops here and there. A little bit of movement on the map, obviously. But I am not going to try and just full send it and hope that I win the game. He is actually playing very cautiously. Drop for Kira heading into the main base, but a drop for Byun actually hit Kira's main base and kills all the leftover SCVs. And no, not again, not again. The SCVs are dead. They can't go for the repair. That's +3 attack going down. And +3 armor will finish, but it's still such a drastic upgrade difference. Marine versus Marine battles. It really just reduces the options that Kira has. Whenever you see those tanks are a little too far away, you go in, you stim in with your Marines. The idea is, you know, that would have been an opportunity for you. The Marines are a little late to reacting. Their tanks aren't involved. Go for it. But when you have an upgrade deficit in Marine versus Marine battles, you actually are constantly second-guessing those opportunities. Medevac drop in the main still being problematic. Main base had lifted, now going over to provide a 5th, both of them on equal SCV counts. +3 armor finally going to finish up, and he did build a 2nd engineering bay, but yeah, it's not even strictly necessary. Scan ahead reveals unsieged tanks and really not all that many Marines. Injured medevacs as well, but this one tank has been on the high ground for, I want to say, something like 5 minutes. Again, Byun playing very cautiously. Tanks every which way that we look, covering all of the choke points, all of the entry points as well. There's the 3-3 really impacting this. I mean, he might have had more Marines too. More medevacs, and the Vikings killing his opponent's medevacs. That might have been a win no matter what. But the missing +3 attack also contributed. Drop on the main base was finally cleared up. Byun now no longer dealing with anything on his side of the map. Kira ditto, though. Kira has been able to mine from 4 orbitals this entire time. He's going to lift his own natural to take a 5th to the bottom right, where I guess he's also focusing his attack, so that makes sense. Tank's a little unguarded. Kira decides to go for it. His own tank siege up. Not particularly close to the command center, but maybe the Marines will do the trick anyway. He is going to lift and leave, making sure they get the heck out of there. Reminder, that is the main base of Byun's. We still is only on 4 command centers, 3 orbitals as well. Kira, by going for a 4th orbital, not only provided himself more mules. Yeah, I thought I miscounted for 1 second, but there you go. But he's also provided himself more scans, which has no doubt helped as well. Kira is a little higher in supply, but missing that +3 attack. I mean, beating a dead horse here, but it's still so important. Tries to go for a quad drop into the main base, but a good number of Marines are waiting. Almost get the medevac with 2 tanks. Scans, reveals a couple of tanks may be unguarded. No, that's not the case. Boost is going to be available to exit. It's going to be used to drop, of course, but now it's just going to exit. And he finds a little corner, stopping this 5th command center from actually mining, while his own 5th gets a couple of mules on it, gets a couple of SCVs. Kira might lose this chunk of army, though. I mean, it just requires a bit of a drop, I would say. Loses another tank up to the top side, and there you go. Byun's going to collapse in on this. Kira is going to try and go for an attack up to the top left. That is where the planetary is. 2 tanks also guarding it. Sensor tower, no, 3 tanks, excuse me. This is something that Kira could technically try to all in on, and he is going to go for it. He knows the army is out of position. He didn't quite know how many tanks were prepared, but he does go for it. It is going to take some time, and it is going to take some losses as well. That wasn't the blitz, the freebie that you could just take and then leave. And while Byun's army was out of position, now it is Kira's time to be out of position. It's defenseless orbital, no tanks in sight. This one tank not enough to actually stop it from dying. Might want to lift it. He's going to try and hold it. He still doesn't have that +3 attack. SCV's hardly helping out. This line of tanks, I think, was more than Kira was expecting as well. The rest of the army is coming in, but it's over Stim, so a lot of them getting one shot at this point, too. It is going to be enough, and he's going to take the opportunity to kill all of the tanks, but he lost a lot of Marines in the process, and once again, Byun finding Kira out of position. Kira wants to defend this bottom right side base, is going to be so far away from defending this third or fourth or whatever the hell it was. And so many SCVs are going to die as well. Kira simply could not keep up with everything that Byun had. He has been lost on the map, constantly running around, trying to react to things, rather than trying to preemptively defend things. Not terribly surprising the way that this game started out to have Kira now almost certainly losing. I mean, down 70 supply. But it actually did not look too bad for him for a while. At the end of the day, it wasn't really the 3-3 that ended up killing him either. I mean, I think it absolutely contributed to him killing him. Again, some of these battles should have gone better for him, perhaps. Obviously, like those moments I was talking about where you decide to go in and then you say, oh, never mind. Like, those all contributed. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of Byun finding Kira mispositioned. And Kira not able to do the same to his opponents. That's it. Byun will take game 2. GG's. Game 3 is going to be an Ultra Love. Bottom left Kira, top right Byun. Kira really put up a fight. I mean, he was in desperate straits for a while there. I want to say that showed a little bit of maturity, as we see an SCV leading, from Byun. But obviously he's had a lot of time to practice TvT and a lot of opportunities being in the region that he is. And I don't really necessarily say that that's always like the best thing or that he's always going to do. I think at the end of the day, Byun, his core character doesn't change very much. He is going to be aggressive, case in point. He's going to be micro-intensive. And he is going to, roll the dice a little bit more than the other Terrans out there. But last game, calming things down, only, using his Marine squad to really run around and leaving a good amount of tanks at home. I mean, I think that is a slightly different way than you can kind of predict Byun to play. Like I was saying, in the game, if Kira was thinking, okay, this guy's on the ropes, it's my time to shine, even though I'm down on my upgrades and my economy has just been hurt, like I need to go. Byun might go for a base trade. Like, I see those Marines moving, I see that tank number growing, I'm like, And if you expected that, you'd be wrong, wouldn't you? Oh, this is not good for Byun, though. Yeah, okay. Well, talked about it in the first game. If you proxy 2 racks, and your opponent 2 racks is at home, the 2 racks at home wins. It's a great defensive build. This is why you don't have to scout with it. Even the factory expander, you don't technically have to scout for it either, but this is going to be even better. The only case in which this loses is if Kira is so shocked by a Reaper the halfway across the map already that he has a micro. And like I predicted as well, I mean, you don't get the... Technically, you get the Reaper faster. Technically. But, like, not enough to make up for defender's advantage. So, yeah, that's no good for Byun. Well, yeah, Kira, he's gonna check. Doesn't see it as close as it could be. But this is usually where you're gonna go ahead and see a 2 racks proxy. Maybe over here, maybe over there. First Reaper needs to be protected. Second Reaper is out. Who's gonna win the micro battle? It is going to be Kira. Although very, very technically, if Byun saves this Reaper, and that was a nice grenade. Oh, he's gonna save it. He's gonna do one better. He's gonna kill Kira's Reaper. Hey-hoo. I was thinking if Byun just saves the Reaper, he still has a chance, but he actually killed Kira's. What a grenade that was. To not only hit the Reaper obviously helps, but then to have Kira's Reaper have to then go behind the Reaper of his opponent, that is such a drastic difference. And now it's 2 Reaper versus 3, and Byun is going to win with a proxy 2 racks. Yes, yeah, Kira, he's going to at least have to pull SCVs. So maybe winning is a bit much of a stretch, but he is going to find damage with it, which then opens up the possibility of obviously him catching up on the economy that he gave up to do this 2 racks, as well as, some of the technology to an extent. He's going to be behind in the Helene, straight up, yeah, but maybe he doesn't go for a Helene anyway. Maybe he just adds Tech Lab, goes for Cyclone. Command centers are on the way for both parties, but since Byun won the micro battle, he gets to put his on location. So that does give him the lead. Eventually, I should say. Eventually. Right now we have Cure holding on to the 2 SCV lead, which we'll have for a while yet. I don't know if he'll skip SCV production, knowing his opponent probably is getting his command center on location. So even though, yes, you're oversaturating, it just you're going to transfer soon enough. Proto Bailey, thank you for the 72 months, as well as Bunger. Thank you for that gifted sub. So the Reapers did not win the game, although it was a little harrowing. They did not win the game. I don't know, are they going to win it here? 2 Hellions you'd think would be enough with a choke to help out. A couple of Marine shots as well, and that will be enough. Yeah, a bit, wow. I'm sure Cure, like, he knew this was a possibility, which is why he put his units there. But to have Byun actually take the fight probably shocked him at some point. You know, he's probably like, oh. Those emotions very quickly in his face. But he does defend the Reapers, which actually would... Wait a minute. Wait, what? Oh! I totally missed that! I totally missed that! 2 Reapers secure. I was wondering where the Reapers were. And then I just forgot that they existed. The 2 Reapers! Wah! Oh, maybe that's why Byun stuck around, too. Oh, wow, that actually changes it so much. So this kills 6 SCVs. And Cure defended his home base. I mean, that just put Cure in a dominant position. Wow. It is kind of funny. It's kind of funny thinking of the first game and how in some ways this is mirroring it. And we get to see that interesting opener, the slight difference of the proxy, right? And how that works. But then we also see someone who does risk something to send the Reapers across the map and is heavily rewarded for it. It was a different scenario than the first game, of which Byun literally had no other defenses aside from those Reapers, but nonetheless, Cure actually sending 2 Reapers when he knows that, like, what was it, like 7 Reapers were out there somewhere? I mean, it's a bit ballsy. It is. But it worked out. Arnold Bajor wants to get the sub. So, we have ourselves a very good economic situation for Cure, but he needs to hold on to it. He does drop a Cyclone into his opponents, but fortunately no double lock-on. And actually, his second Cyclone got a lock-on on the medevac, I believe is what happened there. And so that ends up favoring Cure a lot as well. Byun's going to have some time to repair that medevac. And I think, well, he has a 3rd Cyclone. It's just not in position. He doesn't know if it's going to be a drop or an attack on the front lines. It doesn't attack on the front lines. At least trade out the Cyclones, though. Cure is seemingly happy with his position. Doesn't want to give it up. He is going to stick around in the high ground. Medevac is in trouble thanks to the Viking, but the Viking was in trouble thanks to the Cyclone. Medevac still goes down because Byun came at him with more Cyclones than perhaps anticipated. 3 Cyclones were built in that game, where very, very often Terran players will say on 2, right? So that might have been a little bit of a surprise there for Cure. Because imagine... I said imagine 1 less Cyclone, but then that would have been 1 faster tank. Yeah. But a tank is so much more microable against, right? Like, he might not have lost his medevac, his own Cyclone might not have died in some alternative universe, and he would have been playing around with the medevac still running around if he had been able to, obviously, kill Byun's 2nd Cyclone. But since he went for a 3rd, he once again has a double drop of Cyclones ready to go. Vikings have been produced by Cure. We got ourselves a 3rd command center for a boy in blue as well. Obviously, they both went 2 racks. So there could have been some emphasis on a legitimate 2-on-1. That would have made the game, I think, very, very funky, though, and this is something that both players did not opt for. 2 Cyclones drop out. 2 Cyclones lock onto a Viking. And that Viking is 100% dead. This is more troublesome than you would hope. But then again, Byun might be losing his medevac no matter what. SCV is going for the surround, and they grab it. The citizen's arrest is good, and the medevac is dead. Byun trying to find units out of position, however, attacking on the front lines. Great idea, but Cure does have at least 1 tank here. He is going to wisely unsiege it, seeing that all unfold before his eyes. He tried to do it fast enough, not quite. 2nd tank also in danger. Uh-oh. Byun might have taken quite the slapping of a SCV count, but he's actually slapping back with the army trades. 2 tanks going down right there puts Cure into a very delicate position. Not something that I think he takes catastrophic damage to, but it is a delicate position. It's something that Byun really needs to find a lot of damage with, though. His 3rd CC only just now starting, although it is on location. But he's already found the damage. He already killed 2 tanks. That reduces a counterattack opportunity. He's already killed 5 SCVs, and We do have, once again, Kier opting to not build SCVs, but his production isn't quite set up yet. So this is just him trying to organize his thoughts in his brain at this point, honestly. I do like this from Byun, by the way. He has added on a second factory. He's actually going to go into mech. And when you figure that your stim and combat shields is so much later than your opponent, then that is usually the best option. Command Center now getting very injured, forcing a lot of repair. Liberator is going to get something one way or another. It's going to get the SCVs or a tank. Kira picked up a double drop, however, and that was a true fear of anyone who was going into bio. It was also going to be going faster into medevacs as you're going mech. Oh, this was it. This was what Kira needed to do. He's going to hold on to his base back at home, most likely, but he just slaughtered 30-plus SCVs. He's going to go after the tank as well, and this double drop just won Kira the game. It was very dicey. The same units that we see here used to pull the boys and to try and break out of this would have been ugly. It would have been a very ugly game. Instead, sends him across the map, finds Byun without many units at all. And as I said, effectively has ended the game. Kira just needs to hold on to a main base. He still has his natural orbital. He still has his third orbital. He still has some production. Combat shields will also finish very shortly. I mean, it's obviously worth playing out for Byun. There's a Liberator actually over here. But it's unfortunately not going to end in his victory. Worst case scenario, Kira could even evacuate, like if that was really that scary of a push on the front lines. But it was becoming less and less scary by the second. GG's, Kira, the 2-1.